short span of time. Overall, we operate from Bangalore. That's our head office. We also have our sales and pre-sales presence in Delhi and Mumbai. In these short span of 5 years, we have been able to work in all segments of customers, be it startup, enterprise or SMB. We are bootstrapped and running on revenues.
Hello everyone, I'm Deepika Christina. I head the customer experience function for CM.com in India. CM.com is a global leader in cloud software for conversational commerce. We basically build products and solutions that businesses in all sizes can use to better deliver customer experiences. Prior to CM, I worked with other enterprises and startups, specifically helping FinTech clients across consulting, implementation, and adoption of software as a service products. Really looking forward to sharing my thoughts with you all today on the panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashish. Thanks, Deepika. I think at least for the audience, it's a good combination of somebody who's coming from a PaaS experience, somebody from a SaaS experience, and of course, I am the cybersecurity guy who can protect their infrastructure. But I think we are in interesting times. Even in the earlier panel, we saw that how things are evolving, at least in the digital landscape in the fintech industry. And I think the cloud solutions can be given due credit in terms of fueling this growth. Just currently, if you look at the numbers, the cloud services or cloud solution industry is about $500 billion globally, growing at 16% CAGR. Now, that growth is only fueled by the benefits that it provides. So my first question to both of you would be, maybe first Ashish, that how cloud services, of course, they benefit the companies, right, who are providing solutions on top of cloud platforms, cloud solutions. How it benefits the customers, the end customers, at the end of the day?
So when it comes to companies who are looking at building their infrastructure to move fast to the market, what we have seen for building their infrastructure on to move for a faster go-to-market, cloud plays a lot of role. So be it scalability or be it going global fast or be it security, all these three areas we have been able to help customers. I'll connect it to an example since we're in a fintech forum and we were listening to PNB Housing. Let's say if you have to buy a house, then if you have to buy the house, you will look at first security, how is the area, you will look at scale, I need to buy a 3 BHK or a 4 BHK house. And then you will look at the budget I'm going to pay, if it's a OPEX or do I do some upfront payments. So if I connect this analogy to cloud helps you in all these three areas. Let's say if you have to buy a 5 BHK house, but today you only need a 3 BHK, don't invest so much there, just invest in what you need now. That's where you can use pay-as-you-go model and you only go with the infrastructure which is your current requirement. So scalability is one more area where cloud helps. Let's say if you have a lot of load which is unpredictable coming certain specific times, then definitely that's one more area where cloud plays a lot of role. Security is, I think, is a biased word on cloud, but we find that security of the cloud is also impacted greatly by these hyperscalers where all the stringent measures are taken care of. But definitely security in the cloud is something which is on the customer side.
And Deepika, you are also very close to customers, right, in India and across different sectors.
That's right.
What has been your experience? Do they even care or do you have real tangible kind of examples where it has really benefited customers?
Yes, interesting question, Amit, thank you. So since Ashish spoke more on the PaaS side of things, I'd like to give examples that the folks here could relate on the SaaS side of things, right? So cloud adoption is equally important for FinTech when it comes to the services that they provide in terms of products and offerings, right? So we have a couple of clients specifically in the insurance space, right, who really want to be the game changers when it comes to innovation and customer experience altogether, right? These are some of the great benefits that cloud could offer. So if I were to just give you an example, very recently for a client, we've automatically helped them automate the claims process in the insurance cycle, right? What used to be a many-day process or even months process has been changed to what can be done within a couple of minutes, right? So Just give you an example. If we are met with an unforeseen incident, such as, let's say, a car crash, right? So what we used to do earlier is give the insurance company a call, wait for the surveyor to actually come to the spot, assess the damages done, right? They would take pictures, submit a report, and only then, after the report is reviewed, the claim process would actually kick in, right? Now we've deployed bots for them, so all the customers at that point in time, right, they're already disgruntled and annoyed. You don't want to make them wait for a longer period of time, so all they have to do is take pictures of the incident, upload the pictures on a chatbot that can be present on WhatsApp itself, right, and answer a series of questions. So the chatbot is also AI powered, and it can automatically detect the seriousness of the issues based on the inputs given by the user, and within a matter of minutes can automatically calculate the amount that could be credited back to the person's account. And if the person's okay with it, they can agree the amount is going to be transferred to their account in a matter of days as per the regulations and the norms that the corresponding banks have. And if they have a dispute with it, they can flag it to a live agent who can pick up the conversation from the bot and help them arrive at a favorable number, right? So even in the loan space, right? So banking, non-banking side of things, the loan process is also completely automated by most of the banking companies these days, right? So you don't have to physically visit the bank these days to fill out a form and get loans approved. The same process can be done by bots. First, the bots will help you understand if you're eligible for a loan itself, right? So depending on how much monthly income you're getting and the amount of EMIs that you're paying on other loans already, the bot would calculate your eligibility criteria and then will try to understand the premium that you're looking for and give you the amount that you'll have to also pay on a monthly basis. If you're okay with the calculation, you can proceed to filling out the form on a bot or even on email, right? Whatever works for you. And once the form is processed, the loans are automatically getting credited to the customer's account. So these are some of the advancements and innovations we are seeing with cloud adoption in the fintech space.
That's interesting because, in the past, I had a stint as a partner with the Big Four, and I was working with a London-based insurance company. And there, the criteria was that earlier customers had to declare and prove that they were not at fault when their car met with an accident, for example. And then, of course, cloud was at its nascent stage, but the company introduced OBD-based devices, which are now also common in India, where those devices were installed in the car by these insurance companies. And the devices were sending real-time data about the speed, the way steering wheel was handled, when the brake was pressed, when the airbags were deployed, and all that data was analyzed. And of course, with advanced analytics, they could predict that who was at fault, what really happened. And of course, there are local regulations that you also have to record, have a camera, dash cam, and do that. So there it was less of customers, declaration and stress, but more technology doing the work and making sure even the premium reduced. Because with all of these efficiencies coming in, the premium got reduced significantly by up to 20%. Because now the insurance companies had more realistic data to do all their actuarial work on, basis which the premiums eventually get decided. So with that, the other thought would be, there are various options, right? So you have cloud service providers which provide add-on services. There are APIs, libraries. Of course, there are infrastructure-specific benefits. Some cloud providers give you various disaster recovery and backup, real-time scalability, ransomware protection. But what are the key considerations? So if a fintech company has to decide on a cloud platform, so what are the key considerations or pointers they'll have to evaluate and think of before they make that decision?
So overall, we have impacted 350 plus customers, out of which 25% are in the fintech space. And what we have realized, there are 3-4 areas where we're able to help if they go on cloud journey. One is faster speed to market. That's an area where definitely we help. Another area is scalability. A lot of these companies would have unpredictable loads coming at different points of time. That scalability, scale up and scale down is where we help the customers. To give you an example about speed to market, a gaming company which wanted to go live before IPL, and they had like 2 weeks. And they knew that they couldn't match that scale on premise, and they wanted to migrate on AWS. We are also partners to AWS and Azure. So what we did, we helped them to migrate on AWS over a period of 2 weeks, and now they're running fine there. And also, we're not just migrated them, we're also managing workloads for them. Similarly, on the fintech space, we have worked with not just fintech, we have worked with wealth tech companies, we have worked in lending, we have also worked in reg tech companies. These are some areas where we have helped customers in their cloud and tech journey.
Deepika, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure. So to answer your question on the key considerations, right, that customers have to look forward to in choosing the right cloud service provider, I would say firstly you need to figure out if the cloud service provider that you're working with supports the type of cloud that you want to be on, right? So there are various types of cloud, as we all know, right? So some companies want to be on a private cloud, some want to be on the public cloud, and some want to be on the hybrid cloud model. So first, figure out if the CSP supports the type of cloud infrastructure that you're looking for. Secondly, you also have to work with someone who's aware of the local regulations and governance policies that constantly keep changing, specifically in our geography, right? It's important to also check on the uptime, right? So while most of the cloud service providers would always try and promise 99 point some percent uptime, you also have to figure out what happens, what is their recovery policy, right? And what is your contract looking with them in terms of the service level agreements that they've promised with you when there is a downtime that happens. So these considerations, along with importance given to security compliance of these CSPs itself, is very, very important, because banking, fintech in general is very, very time sensitive and is also primarily based on trust, right? So should there be a security mishap and should you lose the trust of your customers, you're not just losing the customer, but word of mouth is very, very important too. And once that goes out, one becomes 1,000 and 1,000 becomes 10,000 and so on. So these are factors that I think should never slip out of our minds when we're looking for a CSP for migrating or moving into the cloud.
Sure.
I'll just give one more example. We did a project on Tally. The complete SaaSification on Tally was done by us on AWS. The speed that it gives to SMBs today to switch to Tally is immense. They don't need to care about hardware. They don't need to plan there. They don't need to block their capex. So the flexibility it has given to SMBs is immense. So just want to call that out as well.
Also, I think the key consideration is if your competition is on cloud, then you can't be on-prem. So you mentioned Tally, and I remember SAP moving to cloud. Now they pretty much offer everything on cloud. So there's no option Tally has to not move to cloud.
Absolutely, that's how the market behaves. I think it's always better to see where the future goes, and that's we call it as cloud way.
So you both mentioned the positive sides of why and what points one has to consider when moving to cloud. And Deepika, you mentioned some regulatory challenges. So that's an important bit, right? Especially with youngsters, starting up new businesses and also established players. And these regulations keep on changing, right? We are looking at data localization norms. Then, of course, if we have customers all over the world, we have to look at local jurisdictional norms. So whether it's GDPR, whether it's Californian data protection. Now, Certain has come up with new guidelines where you have to report a cyber breach in 6 hours, and everybody's scrambling to kind of see what they can do, how they can even detect it, forget reporting it. So what are these risks and compliance challenges, because it differs from industry to industry. If you're in pharma, the health tech, the rules differ. You have to also look at, what end customers, where the end customers are. In fintech, of course, we have local RBI guidelines, which pretty much, guide everything in. So what are these different risk and compliance challenges you think exist, and what can companies do to overcome these challenges?
If
Ashish?
we speak about risks and challenges on cloud, let's say the flip side, while we spoke about pros, definitely you can't take your eye off the consumption. It has to be monitored. Always better to use any kind of cloud monitoring tool. We use NOps for our 100+ customers that we're currently managing on AWS. It's always viable to use any of the such tools so that you can keep an eye on the consumption. On the security side, I would say security is misunderstood on cloud. Because if you look at security, security in cloud, space security off the cloud is the hyperscalers' responsibility, but security in the cloud is the consumer's responsibility. I'll give an example. You go to a hotel, you stay in a hotel, and the hotel gives complete perimeter security to you. But if you leave your doors open, your room's door open, then it's your responsibility. So application security is on the consumer, whereas the platform security is with the hyperscalers. So these are the two areas which I see we definitely need to look at when we are considering to go on public cloud.
Deepika, you know?
Sure, Amit. So, 2 points, right, or 2 parts to this question altogether. So, first, I'd like to speak about the varying regulations, right? So, even without going abroad, if you look at India itself, there is SEBI that you need to be compliant of if you're in the crypto and related space. There's IRDAI for the insurance companies and RBI for the financial and banking services. So each of them have their own set of regulations. You also always have to be cognizant of what is changing when. So I would say it's quite advisable for the emerging fintechs or even the established ones to work with players who are well aware of the security and regulation part. Leave it to the best and you focus on your core competencies, right? So that could really help you get started and move away from the risks and challenges or even the regulations that are holding most of the fintech companies back. To speak about security, my recommendation here would be, and I see most of the fintech companies working with players who follow zero trust principle altogether, right? So most of you might have heard it. So zero trust is this policy that financial institutions follow to sort of reinforce that you don't trust either a user or a device or an application implicitly just because of the fact that the connection request is coming from your corporate network, right? So always base your approving capabilities or always base your whether or not you should give a person access, always base it on rigorous authorization that you can do, right? So this coupled with privilege access management or IAM, these are all evolving right now. So if you couple it with this and take zero trust principle to the next level, some of the security breaches can mostly be avoided, right? And to top it up, you can always work with security experts who would be the right point of people to guide you on that journey as well.
I think the answer also lies in my experience that choosing a hybrid model is always good because as companies, we have our crown jewels in certain data sets. Now, as a forensic consulting firm, we do some bit of mystery shopping for our clients. This mystery shopping means that we would act as a fraudster and go to the market and try and do certain things which help us understand, can something go wrong for our client? So if I'm doing this mystery shopping, say for a toothpaste company, I'll go to the market and try and find counterfeit products for our client with various sources we know exist, and I'll pose as somebody else, as somebody who's going to buy, and you'll know really if it exists. So we did some mystery shopping, and I can tell you that there are cases where, see, insider threat exists, right? So every employee, as you mentioned, zero trust, that's more logical. But you have employees working in a company, and employees can go rogue. And there are employees working in the hyperscalers, employees working in the cloud solution providers. So there have been cases that third party or say individuals with influence would go and contact an employee in a hyperscaler and say, hey, I'll pay you money, can you give me data of this company? Now, not all companies are encrypting their data on cloud the way they should be. A file is lying there, right? Which is of course secure, the door is closed. But as a person, I always believe that physically, if something is not in my control, then there's always a risk. So if a car is not parked in my garage, it's with a friend's garage, but I can see it on the video camera that it's safe, but still it doesn't give you that level of comfort. So a company, if they are not encrypting their data correctly, now you have issues with certain individuals with influence in the market or rogue employees at the cloud solution providers. Your data can still be at risk, even though you can secure it from cyber criminals. But these insider risks at the cloud solution provider or with certain agents outside your firm who have influence, that can still go vulnerable. So I think keeping a hybrid model, so for example, if you have emails on the cloud, why would you keep your top management's email not on-prem? Because those are critical emails, documents, you have customer master information, you have to keep one copy yourself on-prem. So that if something goes wrong, an employee goes rogue at the cloud solution provider, you are not a sitting duck in that situation. Well, moving out from the bad things, as things are evolving, right, with new solutions coming in, we are moving towards Web 3.0 with all the different offerings from a distributed offering standpoint in the finance industry. We have various other industries connecting with fintech companies in more real time and in interfaces which we have never imagined before. Where do you think the future is for cloud solutions and cloud services? Is there any space for Indian cloud service providers? So we always talk about AWS, we talk about Azure, we talk about Google, now we talk about Oracle. What about Indian cloud solution providers? So is there a space for them in this future?
Cloud is a huge market. If we look at a recent market analysis, it's going to be $13.7 billion by 26. So definitely there's a huge field to play and a pie for everybody. In terms of Indian cloud providers or hyperscalers, I would say the innovation is an area where they are catching up. Currently, data center infrastructure, hardware, network is provided by the Indian companies, whereas the platform is provided by the hyperscalers. And the kind of innovation they're able to bring in is immense, where probably India needs to catch up. That's an area which I think is to be built. Definitely, the field is huge. Everyone can play there. We also see small private data centers cropping up, and they also cater to a segment of customers. But yes, it depends on which space you are on, and basis that you can decide on whether to go with a private or a public data center.
Deepika?
Sure. So I'll speak about the innovations itself, right? You mentioned Web 3.0, Amit, and that's also something I've been closely following as well. So with Web 3.0, and with DeFi as a technology, right, at the core of Web 3.0, fintech companies are definitely going to be disrupted, right? So it's only up to people who adopt to it and see the changes themselves, right? And your other question on hyperscalers versus the local or the regional cloud service providers, I do definitely feel that the regional players do stand a chance, specifically because when you look at it from an infrastructure standpoint, there's not much different from what an AWS would have versus what the local players would have, right? So is the case with your network connectivity, so your latency, time to market, your uptime. So these are all pretty much the same. Now, where the hyperscalers have the advantage is because of the credibility and the time that they've been spending in the market, right? So it's always easy for companies to choose a known brand versus companies that are relatively new. So that's where most of the hesitation lies. But the core of all of this is always the cost, right? So the local or the regional cloud service providers, when they're able to just take your requirements into account and give you the service that you need, from a cost standpoint as well, they turn out to be much more affordable than the hyperscalers. And with the government also trying to come up with initiatives that are in favor of, let's say, the Make in India initiative or the other initiatives that they're running in favor of the local players itself, I'm sure many things would change. And maybe, Amit, you can also add about some government initiatives. Since you work with the government closely yourself, if you could touch base upon that, that would be helpful as well.
Yeah, of course, I think we have seen the payment industry evolve at the back of UPI, which is a government initiative by NPCI. I think that changed the game completely, fueled in the digital payments space, which was not possible with the credit cards, the traditional credit cards, which we were seeing. Now in e-commerce, we are talking about the ONDC. There's already a government e-marketplace which is used by various government departments to procure and use e-commerce the way we do. ONDC can change e-commerce the way we know now. So I think why not cloud? So there's always, I've seen in major transformation, there's always a government nudge that is needed. So whether it is the Make in India initiative that incentivizes or maybe subsidizes certain things, or maybe say cooling is the biggest cost when it comes to data centers. So if all data centers are allowed to set up shop in Kashmir somewhere, and the government provides the security, then why not? So I think that the things are changing so rapidly and dynamically. These are exciting times, and maybe a space for Indian cloud solution providers to watch for.
Agreed.
Great. Maybe if there are any questions, we can take some questions from the audience. Great.
If you have any questions, maybe your team members have any questions related to technology, cloud, we're at booth number D18. Please feel free to walk in. We have our technical architects there who can help and advise you on your cloud journey.
Thank you, both of you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your experiences. Thanks, everyone.